I began working with the tarot when I was 22. And if there's something that is a huge motto for me in my life, it's that anyone can do anything, because I come from a very interesting background, and never did I think that I'd be doing anything like this. My parents raised me from a very corporate-driven mindset. They were like, go to college, interview, get your job, help us retire, thank you, have a good life. And I had a pretty massive, what I'd like to call spiritual awakening when I was about 19. And I was like, there's way more than what I'm being told. And I was very hell-bent as an Aries Capricorn rising to figure out what that was and what my path was. I moved to Los Angeles when I was 21, and I remember when I first got here, I went on a date with this really sweet Pisces guy, and he's like, do you want to go to a meditation with a Japanese sensei? And I was like, yeah, but I had never meditated in my life. But that was the beginning of what I like to call like my mindfulness path. And I never thought I moved here to be a designer. I never thought I was gonna be getting to this crazy city and like beginning to meditate and study Kundalini and crystals and oils and all of these things that absolutely saved me from myself. And when I began working with the tarot, it was one of those things where I had been watching this really cool like spiritual YouTube channel for a while, and there was this girl on there and she'd always jump on and talk about the tarot. And I was like, I want to know about that. I was like, I don't know what that is, but like, I want to know about it. So I started to study, and my first deck came to me through one of my best friend's moms, and I began reading and studying, and I never stopped. And that was 8 years ago. And I like to say, the reason I like to give that little story there is because I think anything in life, like we can be on the precipice of it and be like, how am I ever gonna do that or understand that or like begin that journey? But like the beauty is that begin anywhere. And that's always been my motto with everything that I've done. And so that is the journey with the cards, like that is the journey with the tarot. We are gonna move through a lot of information tonight. If anyone brought a notebook or you're really good at just remembering things, like please file your questions at the end. This is completely for you, so I want you to walk away from here feeling totally fulfilled and having whatever your burning question is totally addressed. To begin, I want to go ahead and do a quick meditation. And this is a meditation that I utilize to tap into my intuition before I read for myself and before I read for others. Quick question. Is anyone familiar? I discovered this one strange day in my old Hollywood apartment. I was like, wow, when you focus your eyes at this spot in your head, like you totally start to feel very elated. Has anyone ever experienced that when you meditate? Am I the only one? Okay, good. I'm like, anybody? Mm-hmm. So this is a very fascinating thing. You're actually crossing some sort of neuron in the brain. Pretend my eyes are, pretend they're open. I'm going to give you like a little visual. You basically want to direct your eyes up here. This is the third eye. And you'll notice when you do, you'll feel like a total ease go throughout your entire body. And this is because you move to a 0 point space. The tarot is a tool for the intuition. It's how we exercise psychic ability. Every single person on the planet has psychic ability. Some are extremely aware and conscientious that they have that. Some may never know. It may take them many incarnations to open that part of their being. But everyone has it. So this meditation is very cool because really just by crossing the eyes, getting them up here, focusing at this third eye, you are bringing this ease to the whole physiology of your body, and it's a really, really easy, wonderful way to just dive right in, okay? Everybody ready? You can go ahead and sit up straight. Just a nice straight spine, dropping the shoulders. Relaxing, eyes are closed, focused up at that third eye. Let's go ahead and take a deep, deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Dropping the shoulders, releasing all tension. Inhale. Exhale. Inhaling deeply. Exhale. Still with the eyes focused at the third eye. If you start to think, deeply inhale. Deeply exhale through the mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now follow my voice. You're going to inhale, expand the chest. Hold the breath for 1 moment at the top. Exhale through the mouth. We're going to inhale again, expanding the belly. Hold the breath at the top. Exhale. Inhale, expanding the chest. Hold the breath at the top for just a moment. Exhale. One more inhale, expand the belly. Hold the breath for just a moment at the top. And exhale. Still keeping the eyes closed, focus up at that third eye. I want you to visualize yourself completely at peace. Rooted to the center of the earth, just bringing yourself fully into the presence of your body, of your own greatness, of your own internal peace. Feeling the third eye nice and open, feeling the self rooted in the body. And go ahead and visualize a beautiful golden light around the aura. A white golden light around the aura. You can do this visualization anytime. This is a great filtration to just gently release what doesn't serve you and gently to bring in what does. So taking another moment, just kind of bowing the head. Take another deep, deep inhale. And exhale. And then with the head a little bit bowed, you can just kind of slowly, gently open the eyes. Just kind of face downwards. Bring yourself fully present back into the room. Hey guys, can everybody hear me okay? Sonia, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome, hi. All right. I just asked you to put your computer on mute, but if you have a question, just wave at me or unmute. Okay, thank you. All right. We're gonna get right into it. We have a lot to do. Really quickly, did everyone bring a deck? Awesome. So I'm going to be teaching you from the Thoth system, but you can apply this to anything. First and foremost, what I always like to say as you continue on with your journey with the tarot, get an amazing guidebook. And even if you don't have the Thoth deck, just get this book. It is one of the most beautiful pieces of writing. I tried to track this author down and he is like nowhere to be found on the internet, which is really weird. But this book, this is what I studied and learned the tarot from. Very, very positive, very empowering, incredible life wisdom. And that is something that I always like to drive home about the cards, is that they're little pieces of wisdom and light. And the tarot is all about your internal journey. It's all about you getting better acclimated with you. It has really nothing to do with fate or destiny. You're creating your life every moment, and that's why the cards are such powerful tools, because they offer us insight into what we are creating in the now. One of my favorite tarot teachers, his name is Alejandro Jodorowsky. Has anybody ever heard of him? Did Holy Mountain? I love his take on the tarot because he says, you know, the tarot is not for fortune telling really. It's a tool for self-empowerment in the moment and for self-exploration in the moment. Because if you read, you know, all the fun spiritual scriptures or alchemy or transmutation, whatever you look at, it all speaks about the power of the present moment. And obviously when we're working with the cards, it's a great opportunity to come fully present, see what we're creating, take a look at where our headspace has been and what we're creating moving forward. And I wanted to give you a little brief history about the cards. Who's heard the whole thing that you can't buy your own deck? Has anybody heard that? Oh, great. Maybe that's like an old school thing, but I heard it. Okay, cool. Yeah. It's not true. You can purchase your own deck. But great, you guys are, anyhow, moving on. You guys can laugh at me. I try to be funny because I can't take myself very seriously. I'll lighten up as I go. I'm always nervous at the beginning of these, but that's fine. Okay. So I want to give you a little brief history of the cards. Tarot can be traced back as far as 1440 Italy, but tarot actually wasn't considered a divination tool until it re-emerged in a more sort of cohesive system in the 18th century. The history of the tarot is extremely fragmented, and many people believe that it traces a lot of its divinatory, I hope that's a word, divinatory beginnings from Kabbalah and Egyptian theology and mysticism from all over the world. So it's a really unique system, and I'm sure you'll see in many of your decks, as well as the Thoth deck that I'm going to be teaching from, that Crowley draws from all of these different ideas and mystical lineages. And has anybody heard of the Rider-Waite? Do you have the Rider-Waite deck? It looks like it. It looks cool. Rider-Waite? See, what you'll notice is that tarot is meant to be like reflective of humanity. It's meant to be reflective of the human experience. So there's a lot of new, sort of more modern interpretations, like the Wild Unknown. She does a beautiful job of doing this sort of more open-ended, very natural, mystical take on all of these tarot themes. You'll see in the Rider-Waite that it has a lot of like Christian mysticism and like theology. In almost all of the cards you get like the Queen, the King. Well, imagine 18th century caste systems, royalty, and truthfully for a very, very long time, tarot wasn't really in the hands of normal people. It was in the hands of royalty and people who could afford these like really, really expensive decks. They were total works of art. And I had heard that some of these decks took people like their entire lives to create. Like they were just so ornate. So as I said in my little video prefacing the course, I meant to send that to you guys today, but I forgot. But something that I find really fascinating about the tarot is that it's a reference point for the subconscious. So as I take you through the basics of all of the cards and the whole system, you can utilize the tarot in any part of your life. You can utilize it with relationship questions. You can utilize it with your health, with money. You'll see as we move through everything, it literally reflects like every single part of the human experience, and can give you a new perspective and hopefully a more positive vantage point on how to look at things that may be very challenging, or to give yourself the ability to see things in a new way. I'm going to give you little bits of homework too, because it's going to be stuff that will help you to get more familiar with the cards. But something that's also really wonderful, we've all dreamt before, right? Everybody's had a dream. I hope so. Something really fascinating is that basically the cards are physical extensions of the subconscious mind. So think about it when you dream, how everything comes in like symbolism. Maybe you see colors, maybe you see a certain number of people, or like who knows, you know what I mean? Like you see all of this different information. Well, the tarot is almost like our tangible, these little things that we can hold in the 3D that help us explore these deeper parts. So something that's really, really fascinating that I really love to do, like let's say you have a really vivid dream and like you can't sort out what in the world it means. That's an exercise I want you to do. You can use your cards and your guidebook, especially as you're learning. I still use my guidebook all the time, and I use it in readings. I use it in life. I'll be driving and I'm like, just like flip open a page and see what it says. But go ahead and utilize your deck and take a look at if you can decipher like certain parts of your dream space. Does that sound cool? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hi.
Hi.
Are you here for the class?
No, I'm here for Catherine.
Okay, I'm not sure. All right, let's see here. Any questions before we start? Any questions from my online people too? Everybody good? All right, you guys all good? You seem so serious. Did everyone have an okay day? You're here now. You good? Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for all being muted. I can see that. Okay, so let's move right into it. I'm gonna have you handle your cards. If you can't find a card and I already like went past it, please don't worry. You'll find it at some point, and you'll probably find it right when you leave the class, but that's fine. So first and foremost, system of the tarot. I'm gonna give you a little rundown of this. Then we're gonna move into the major arcana. I'm gonna take you through the court cards, the minor arcana, and then I'm going to teach you some spreads and then address any questions. And you can ask questions throughout as well. I just definitely want to make sure I get through all of the basic information. So tarot is a 78 card system. There are 22 major arcana, 16 court cards, and 40 minor arcana. Each of the minor arcana as well as the court cards are all separated into suits. The suits are all based on the 4 elements. So we have fire, we have water, air, and earth. And I'm gonna throw out little questions to you guys throughout. And because truthfully, the tarot is a very intuitive system. So like you're gonna find too that you already know a lot of what I'm gonna tell you. It's all based on our experience. It's based on the natural world. It's all things that we intuitively understand. So first and foremost, major arcana, these are the major mysteries. Arcana means mystery or secrets. So as I take you through the journey of the major arcana, we move from the Fool, which is 0 point, to the world or the universe, the number 21. Something that's really fascinating, I always like to tie in like a little bit of physics and science, but I was taught that the 0 point of the Fool is actually represents the Big Bang. So it's like this space of like nothingness blasted into everything, and that's what the Fool represents. But we'll get more into the Fool in a minute. Something really powerful about the Major Arcana, when you have a Major Arcana come up in your reading, this could be like a very major theme for you, something that you're meant to really explore. These can address like day-to-day situations and questions, but they also can be very powerful, like overarching themes. All right, so that's Major Arcana. Then we move it into the Court cards, and this gets us into our Minor Arcana cards, which cover the minor mysteries, or sort of the more transitory parts of the human experience. The Court cards are people. Ironically, I've got one right here. They're all based on the elements, just like the Minor Arcana and the suits. The Court cards, I'm going to be really honest with you. I've been doing this for a little while, and like the Court cards still, I'm like, what? Wait, what is this guy again? I'm like, how? Sometimes you'll get a reading, and it will be, you'll just have like 10 Court cards. So the whole trick there, Court cards have a couple different meanings for us in a reading. They can represent people, they can represent strengths and weaknesses, and they can represent things that we still need to learn. I always really like to take a look at, oh yeah, is everyone's phones off? Okay, is that someone's phone?
It's not.
Okay. I think it's actually probably Catherine's. I think she left hers. Hey, Gabe, should you turn it off for me? Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Everyone knows how to work an iPhone, so it's not a problem. Universal, thank you. So, another thing with the Court cards, it can also represent, as I said, people in our lives, but also the things that these people have to teach us. And then I'll just repeat what I said again. Also can represent like strengths and weaknesses. That's the Court cards. Now we move over into the Minor Arcana. This is 40 cards total. It goes from Ace to 10 in each suit. We've got fire, we've got water, we've got air, we've got earth, we've got it all. And every single one corresponds to a particular symbol. So I'd like to go through those with you guys right now. The wands are fire. These also represent the 3 fire signs. So we've got Aries, and there's my Aries bestie. We've got good timing, Anna. We've got Aries, we've got Leo, and Sagittarius. Whenever we pull wands in a spread, this has to do with our energy. This has to do with our level of activity. This is the yang sexual principle. And as I talk about the cups, you'll see that the cups is the polar opposite to the wands. And that's a theme that we explore a lot throughout the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana, is this balance of polarities. So this balance of masculine, this balance of feminine, this balance of dark but not necessarily negative, let's say challenging, and the balance of that which is easy or positive. So we see that a lot throughout. So wands, energy, in general, our action or activity, intuition, insight, and then the yang sexual principle or active principle. Then we go to the cups, which this is water. Cups represent relationships, and as far as what they rule astrologically, this is going to be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now, whenever we get cups, this is asking us to explore like our feelings and our intuition. This is sort of, as you see, kind of the opposite of the wands already. We get like this nice polarity, this yin-yang balance. It represents the yin or the receptive principle in sexuality. So it's this more receptive, fluid energy. But anytime we see cups, we just need to think, okay, relationships or feelings. I told myself, I can get extremely flowery when I talk. Who's familiar with astrology in here? Anybody into your astrology? Okay, I have a lot of Gemini, so it's like tons of talking, and I'm like, all right, let me try to see if I can say things in like a single sentence versus like 5 sentences. That's my practice right now. Okay, then we're gonna move to swords, which is air. Now the swords are very interesting in tarot. So think about this. The mind is quite a fascinating thing, right? Just like air. We can't see the air, but we need it, right? It's here, it's always around. We can't exist without it. It basically, in a sense, rules our entire existence. Well, the mind is just like that. You can't exactly see or completely understand the mind. It's just something that rules and dictates and shifts and shapes your entire reality. So whenever we see swords, this has to do with our mental processes, and it's usually asking us how to be more aware of how we're shaping our lives by how we think. It also rules meditation practice, it rules attitude, it rules these sort of like unseen forces in our own being, but that totally are extremely, extremely important. And the thing that I always like to say about the swords is that a sword can, so let's see, a sword can either cut the foliage in front of you and carve out a space for you, it can protect you, or you can turn it on yourself, right, and hurt yourself. You can cut off an appendage. That's the same with the mind. You've got to use the mind like a tool. And it is a huge exploration through this work and through this system, is coming to understand how to make our mind more of our friend versus our foe, how to put the sword out in front of us to be something that's constructive and productive for us versus something that is harmful. And when we go through the minor arcana of the swords, I'll explain that a bit more. Swords, in terms of the astrological associations, we have Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Really quick, can I get everyone's signs? Noelle, what's your birthday sign?
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Andrew? Aries.
Taurus.
Taurus. I know your birth. Aries.
Pisces.
Pisces.
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Taurus.
Gemini.
Gemini. Libra. Pisces.
Cancer.
Cancer.
Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Virgo.
Virgo. Awesome. All right. Do you guys notice a little bit elementally, like you get like kind of the water, earthy, airy people, and then you get like the fire people always find each other, the fire, earth people? Isn't that weird? Then we got Kat over there. The brave of you, babe, be over there with all the fire, earth people.
I love fire.
Okay, great. All right, and then keyword X. All right, and then lastly in the minor arcana, we get to the discs. The discs are an earth energy. Their astrological association is going to be Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Now, what's left in the human experience? We've talked about energy and activity and the mind and the emotions. What's the last thing that we need to cover? Come on, you're in one right now. The body. And money and vocation. So discs and earth, this rules all of like, I call it like the earth stuff, all the tangible, all the important details that sometimes we'd rather not pay attention to, but we really have to, right? And so do you guys see again how we have the wands and the cups, the fire and the water kind of counterbalancing? Then we get the swords and the discs, and we get that counterbalance again from air to earth. They're like this opposition. So again, this sort of balancing of polarities. So discs, very simply, health, money, vocation, and something really powerful that I always like to talk about with the discs, because it does rule money and health, is that this speaks of the external reflecting the internal. And that's what this whole thing is about. This is what you're exploring, is how to understand your internal weather and your internal dialogue so you can make the external reflect more of what you want, right? Doesn't everyone like to experience things that they like? And here's the beauty, and you'll see this through the cards, is that even when you're experiencing things that you don't, call it teacher. Because people always ask me, they're like, are there negative cards? Are there positive cards? And I'm like, here's the thing. Don't ever call anything, if you can, don't call it negative. Call it challenging. Call it a teacher. Everything, the light will always permeate. Darkness is a temporary thing. You can't bring dark into a light room and make it dark, right? It physically doesn't work that way. So what we can do with our problems and with things that challenge us is we can look at it as, okay, here's my teacher, here's an opportunity to grow and to understand more. And that's what we're gonna go through the cards. That is what the tarot, and that is my whole journey of teaching this system, because I want to help everyone who wants to understand that, because it's the truth. We've all been through a lot, right? If you're incarnate in a body, you've been through a hell of a lot, right? But if you're here and you're ready to learn something and open your mind and your heart, or even if you're seeking to read for others and they're coming to you in a space of vulnerability, it's always our job to offer anybody who comes to us that reminder that, don't worry, this is a teacher, this is a challenge, this is bringing you into your best self, right? Can we look at things that way? Okay, all right, let's give it a try. Okay. Major Arcana, how am I doing on time? Pretty good, all right. Okay, so grab your decks, please. I'm gonna have you start to grab and separate the Major Arcana. You will be able to recognize the Major Arcana because at the top they have a Roman numeral and no other card in the deck has that. I don't know the Wild Unknown system, but if you have questions, let me know. I think she based it off the Thoth. So, all right, so Major Arcana, we'll start to pull those out. Like I said, Roman numeral on the top. The court cards typically won't be numbered, but that's neither here nor there. Just want you to know that. And also at the bottom of the Major Arcana, you'll typically have two symbols. You'll have the trumps, you'll have a Hebrew symbol, and you'll have a symbol. The Major Arcana bases itself off of universal symbolism and astrology, especially in the Thoth deck. And that's why I will be teaching an astrology course very soon. To me, astrology and the tarot go hand in hand. They're married as far as I'm concerned. Because when you understand astrology, you can get even deeper in your readings. How's everyone doing here? Are you guys good? Thumbs up? Awesome. Okay. Now please, like I said, if you don't find a card as I'm talking about it, don't worry. It's more that you're getting the information, and then like I said, you can find it. You'll probably find it after. There's a lot to go through. We're gonna start with the Fool. And what I'd like to do for the sake of time, I'm gonna give you sort of the mild gist of every card. This is why I really want you to get a guidebook. Like I said, this one is wonderful. And if you ever have questions or need help finding one, just let me know. I've got them all at my house. And I can give you a little Amazon review. But I'm gonna give you the gist of each card. The Major Arcana, we could take this whole 2.5 hours
and go through the major arcana. It's that deep and it's that rich in symbolism. But I like to just get the basic gist because I want these to be things that you guys can utilize like very quickly and really make them practical and pragmatic. All right? So first and foremost, a word about the major arcana. So the major arcana is meant to reflect the human journey from inception to completion. But then what's beautiful is, guess what? The death card's in the middle and you've still got a bunch of cards after that. So there's no death. Anybody believe that? It's true. The whole vibe of the major arcana, it speaks of this birthing process of your own consciousness all the way to the completion process where you just start over again at the beginning. Fascinating, right? It mirrors the same concept as reincarnation, that there's an inception point, there's a remarkable amount of like learning and growing to do. You reach another apex of awareness and then you go back and you do it again, but hopefully with more wisdom and more awareness the next time around. That's the point. So we start with the Fool. The Fool is us. So imagine this is us in our Intro to Tarot class. We're just beginning. We're beginning on this whole journey of self-awareness, and we're about to have this whole evolution together. Whenever you see the Fool in a reading, he's meant to represent inception. He's meant to represent this openness, this open-heartedness, this sense of innocence. It's like the feeling of being a child where you just have this open space of wonder. It's like the beginning of a journey. Do you guys ever notice, I always think this is so beautiful. You know how we like celebrate babies? Like we're so into them. Like who doesn't love a baby, right? Like they make you so happy. And you know as an adult how challenging life is, but when you welcome in a new life, you're like, yes, this is so exciting. That's the Fool. It's like, you know there's gonna be challenge ahead and there's gonna be things that can really bring you to your knees, but it's okay, it's quite beautiful. The Fool is like this open-heartedness, this excitement to begin a journey. This can have to do when we're starting a new job, a new relationship, like anything where we're gonna learn and we're gonna grow a lot. So that's the Fool, fresh start. Then we're gonna go to the Magus or the Magician. He is one. So let's say we got the Big Bang and then we get some planets. Well, there's the Magician. This is like matter. This is like when we're beginning to manifest. So the Magician has to do with manifestation, making things happen, taking action. He is the masculine expression of doing. He is the masculine expression of manifesting. Whenever we get the Magician, we can ask ourselves, number one, a huge thing that the Magician talks about is listen to your words, listen to how you speak. In the Thoth deck, it is a Mercury-ruled card. This has to do with communication. You know in the Bible how they say God, I actually never studied the Bible. I was raised Jewish, but it's fine. But I always thought this was fascinating. God spoke and the world was created. It's quite a famous line. Well, that's actually speaking to something with us. As we speak, our whole world is created. So you speak very negatively, you speak hard to yourself internally or to others or whatever, your world unfolds in that energy. When we shift that and it's in more of a space of gentleness, of light, whatever, our world shifts from that. So this is the Magician, this Mercury energy, this mercurial magician type vibe reminds us, hey, you're creating your life. What do you want to make? It's quite exciting. What are you speaking? What are your words? What are your thoughts? Okay, that's the Magician. Then we're going to move over to the Priestess, and she is the first woman we encounter in the cards. And she, again, is that similar vibe of, we have the Magician, this masculine component, now we move to this feminine component. The Fool is more of a neutral, and we'll see that play throughout. So the Priestess, she's got this beautiful little lunar symbol. Everyone see that? How there's like a lot of moon energy in her. When she comes up, she represents the mystical side of life. She represents like the mysteries. If you've ever heard the adage, the universe rewards those who trust its mysteries, that's the priestess. She's like the hidden knowledge that we have to explore ourselves to get to. When she comes up in a reading, she asks us to get deep. There's something that we need to look at. There's something that we need to listen to. She usually asks us to get quiet. In the Thoth deck, she also speaks of guarding your independence. It's really interesting. If you ever ask in regards to a relationship, whether it's a work relationship, a romantic relationship, whatever, if you get the priestess, she's asking you to look a little deeper and to really feel into the truth. We usually forget to feel because we live in pretty hectic lives, right? But she reminds us to meditate, to get quiet, and to listen to what's being told to us. She's also a very spiritual energy, so she can also ask us to meditate more, to spend time near water, like something. My favorite thing is like, let's get mystical. That's what I hear when I hear the priestess. All right, that was a little off key, but that's fine. All right, we're gonna go now to the Empress. She's number 3. And by the way, I emailed this to you guys. You're gonna have this. It's all the keywords for all the major arcana, and you can use it in lieu of a guidebook until you get yours. All right, so the Empress, she's a Venus energy. She represents motherhood, of femininity. She speaks of nurturance, and something that's really beautiful when you look deeper at the elements of the card. She is gearing herself towards the future. You know that t-shirt, "The future is female"? That's the Empress card. It's sort of like looking to the future and seeing how, whether you're a man, how we can better integrate our feminine nurturance and our feminine strength into our journey and into our trajectory. She also asks, how are we taking care of ourselves? How are we honoring the earth? She's a very earthbound energy, and you'll see her come up like that in all of the decks. Also represents motherhood, but not necessarily pregnancy. She's already had a baby, maybe many. And in your life, because it's a Venus ruled, she can also represent what you're creating. What are you creating? What are you nurturing? Okay? Any questions so far? Good? Okay. Then we're going to move to her masculine component. This is the Emperor. So the Emperor is an Aries energy. This is the first astrological association we see in the major arcana. Is anybody familiar with numerology a little bit? Well, don't worry, because if you're not, you can just look it up on Google, but there's a lot of really cool guidebooks and very cool articles and quick sheets, especially on Pinterest, about numerology, because you will see so much numerical symbolism in the cards. The Emperor is the number 4. Think of a table. A table is sturdy, right? It's a foundation. It's something you can make a lot happen on. That is the Emperor. He is a leader. He's a very stable person. He asks us where we are being a leader or a follower in our lives, where we can step more into our power. It's an Aries energy, so to get another level of information there, we can look at the characteristics of Aries. Aries are fiery, they're very dynamic, they're very forward moving. They probably won't wait for you to tell them something, they'll probably do it, they'll probably start and do it anyway. This is the Emperor, he's a leader, he's a guide. And a big thing, like you'll see throughout all of your decks in different, all the different contexts, all you need to do is take a look at like the little nuances of the cards. Like you can see here, like he's holding this staff across his heart. This has to do with like making sure that his leadership is heart-centered. The Empress is doing the same thing. She's holding these flowers to her heart from her left hand is in the receptive, but in a similar gesture as the Emperor, right hand over the heart to make sure that she's being heart-centered. This is also a really, really big theme in the cards. Okay. Then we go to the Hierophant. And this is, I'm about to show you a cool trick after this one with the Lovers. So the Hierophant is a Taurus energy. It's for you, Mel. He's very fascinating. He's a 5. Now 5 in numerology can typically be a number of challenge. When the Fool, let's say, is like moving along this journey, these are all the people he's met so far, and he gets to the Hierophant. Well, the Hierophant traditionally represents structure, religion. This is when we sort of took all of the like wildness of like paganism and nature and we made it into something cohesive. So he represents that sort of like structure and even rigidity to a degree. He can represent marriage. He represents binding something. In the Thoth deck, he has a very fascinating representation. He speaks of a spiritual teacher. And typically you'll see throughout different card decks that the Hierophant represents studying. It represents, it can even represent going back to school. This and the Chariot can represent going back to school, going to get more information, finding a mentor, finding a guide. So I looked up today, I was like, what are the ones that represent marriage? And he is one, the Empress is one, the Lovers are another, and then a couple of the minor arcana. Because I'd been told before that he represented marriage, and here's why he does. Now we're gonna go to the Lovers. This is a 6, this is a Gemini card. So you'll notice, we'll take a look at in my rendition, this is when you're paying attention, you can start to get all these really interesting bits of information. So in the Lovers, this represents a marriage ceremony. This is the first time where we see like a gathering in the major arcana. Before it just been a more singular journey. Here we come into partnership. And I highly recommend, and I can send this to you guys on email when we're done, but the explanation of relationships according to Gerd Ziegler because of this card is one of the most, it makes me emotional, and I've probably read it 50 times, but a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous portrayal of human relationships and how, as in the principle with the Gemini energy in astrology, it's like you're meeting your mirror. It's like you're coming together with another person. They'll mirror stuff to you, you mirror stuff to them for you to grow and for you to evolve. That's the truth of relationships. And then getting back to some of the symbolism, we have the Hierophant here, who we just saw. Then we get the Emperor and we get the Empress. So we start to see this like merging and this gathering of all of these details and all of the people we've met on our journey so far, right? Isn't that beautiful? When we get the Lovers card, this has to do with relationships, with coming to understand ourselves through another person. It can be a fun card. It can denote like sexual relationships and sensuality. But at the end of the day, it's all for learning and for growth. Hate to break it to everybody. But that's one portrayal of the Lovers. It's that whenever we come together with another person, whether it's for a moment or a lifetime, they're part of our journey and they're our teachers. And this is more has to do with intimate relationships than friends. All right, then we are gonna go to the Chariot. This is a Cancer energy. How's everyone doing finding their cards? Is it going well? Good, are you guys good? Hope so. I might have lost a lot of my people here. All right. Like I said, that's why I recorded this. All right, so we've got the Chariot, Cancer. The Chariot represents the beginning of a journey. But now think about it. So did the Fool, right? The Fool was the beginning of the journey. But imagine from the Fool to the Chariot, we've learned a lot. We've experienced a lot of different people, a lot of different energies. We're married. We're in a relationship with the Lover's card. Now we get to the Chariot, and the Chariot is all about moving to the next level or the next phase of life. Now, whenever we get the Chariot card, this can represent the beginning of, similar to the Fool, but it's like the next level of wisdom that we take with us into this new phase. So this can totally be the beginning of a relationship. We're moving, we're getting a promotion, a new job. And basically when we see the Chariot, he speaks and lets us know that we've got to get all of our stuff together. We have to be really centered for the journey ahead. He's holding the Wheel of Fortune, which we're going to see in a couple cards later. So some key words for him is wisdom. We've evolved from the Fool, meditation, inner fortitude, pioneering, spiritual awareness as a form of power and empowerment. And then Cancers are also very sensitive and very empathic people. So we can also, as I said, when we understand astrology, we can bring that layer and that other level of information into the card. Something I also like to do too with the major arcana, I always ask people that I'm reading for, or I like to know the people in my life, like what their birthdays, what their signs are, because you can see them show up through astrological signs. And if you want to take it one step further, you can also do that in your dreams, which is really fascinating. Okay, next card we're going to move to is the Strength card or the Lust card in the Thoth. This is an 8. This is a Leo energy. This has to do with creativity, unbridled passion, the heart chakra. Up until now, other than the Fool, we've had sort of this buttoned up energy of like exploration and manifestation and, you know, meeting the Hierophant, coming into being a leader, evolving and moving forward with the Chariot. Then we get to this more like animalistic card, which is the Strength card or the Lust card. And what's really fascinating, in the traditional Rider-Waite, maybe you can show us your card. The traditional Rider-Waite, it's a woman holding open the jaws of a lion. Oh, I'll explain why that is. Find the Lust card. They switched it around. That's the Adjustment card. It's really weird, but it's this one. It's this Leo energy. I don't know why they did that. I'm actually going to have to look that up. In the Thoth system, it's switched around. What? Oh, then I'm doing it first. Sorry. You're actually right. Let's do this one first, because in all the other systems, this card comes first. In the Thoth system, that's what it is. It's switched around. So Adjustment is in place of this card, and then later at 11, we get to the Lust card. But I'll explain this one first, and then you guys will come back to the Adjustment card. So we'll just backtrack. Yes, exactly. Okay. So as I said, this is like the first encounter where we get this more sensual, animalistic energy. What's really fascinating in this rendition, as well as the Rider-Waite, is it's sort of this idea of the feminine taming the wild. That's what you get in the Rider-Waite. You get this woman holding open the jaws of a lion and sticking her head in, like she isn't afraid. She's taming this wild, animalistic nature. A couple messages of the Lust card or the Strength card is it reminds us of our own power to tame our demons, to tame the animal within us, but then also sometimes to let it free and to let ourselves be totally expressed. Imagine when you see someone perform, like you're at your favorite concert and the performer is just completely immersed in what they're doing. That's that surrender to that part, just this total flow of energy. That's the Lust card or the Strength card. So it asks us to, if they're more perhaps negative expressions of our animalistic nature, like habits that don't empower, it asks us to be able to tame them. If they're things that really expand our beings, let them flow through. Has anybody ever heard of the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield? You know how he talks about how like creativity, like the ego will always attempt to suppress creativity? Doesn't he talk about that? Like it's like creativity is like this energy, this otherworldly energy that just always wants to, well, maybe not always, but it wants to come through. But the ego's like, nope, 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 like get out of here. And you kind of have to like work with that resistance to just let it flow through. It's like a basic energy that we all have. So we can kind of tie that back to the lust card, to the strength card. Cool. How's everyone doing? I get really immersed when I talk about this. That's why I have to drink water. I get hot. Okay, now we go to the Hermit. That's number 9. It's a Virgo energy. Wait, tell me your name again.
Carla.
Carla. Okay, this is your card, Carla. All right, so the Hermit, number 9. The Hermit takes us back to sort of another similar spiritual expression that we find when we're exploring the Priestess and the Magician. But this time with the Hermit, he has to do with this very evolved attitude towards ourselves, which has to do with being alone and being okay with being alone. And understanding that we find our internal power and our internal light when we're okay being by ourselves, right? I was watching this really interesting talk, and the guy was saying, he's like, who wants to find their purpose? And everyone's like, me? Everyone in the room? And he goes, okay, well, do you know how to be by yourself? And a lot of people are like, it's uncomfortable, right? A lot of the mystics talk about that. Like being alone with yourselves really can be hard, right? Well, the Hermit is the card that when we get it, it invites us. It doesn't mean we have to go live in a cave or in the woods, but taking a moment, I teach this a lot with my work, taking a moment just to be alone and to be and to see what's there. That is the Hermit. Whenever we get the Hermit, he can be like, hey, meditate in the morning for 5 minutes. Hey, go to that yoga class. Hey, go on that hike and like do some yoga up there, like whatever. Do something where you're giving back and nurturing your soul, right? That's the Hermit. And the interesting thing of him being a Virgo energy is that Virgo has to do with purity and Virgo has to do with sowing seeds. So it's almost like when we're willing to give to ourselves in that deeper way, we sow seeds, we plant seeds, okay? And then a really cool symbol on the card is you'll see he's got this fire at his solar plexus. You guys know at the solar plexus we get that. Is it called Muladhara? I always forget that one. Muladhara, anybody know? Thanks. Muladhara, fire in the belly. Well, he has that. It's like looking to the internal sun. Okay? All right. Now we go to Justice, which actually you guys were already there. I knew it was switched up in mine for some reason. We go to Justice, we go to Adjustment. This is the Libra card. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, that'll be the next one. We gotta go to 10. We gotta do the Wheel of Fortune. Apologies. Wheel of Fortune, this is a 10. This is a Jupiter energy. Wheel of Fortune. Anyone know a little bit about what Jupiter represents in astrology? Anybody? Jupiter represents luck, blessings, expansion. In our natal charts, wherever we have Jupiter, this is fun. This is kind of like where the universe gives us like points. It's like, hey, if you're gonna do this thing for your own being, I'm gonna show up for you all the time. Think of Jupiter as like your like double thumbs up card. This is sort of the luck and synchronicity and stuff that just sort of, it can seem like it comes out of nowhere, but actually it's a reflection of your energy, or it's a reflection of you doing your work on some level. Also represents divine intervention, trust in the process, and cycles. And the imagery on the Wheel of Fortune, it's meant to be this really cool, like almost as if you moved the veil of the Maya aside, and you could see the inner workings of the universe. This is what you're represented to see. This is like how things work. And the cycle, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. But when you're down, know you're gonna go back up. When you're up, know you're gonna go back down. Honor the cycles, trust the cycles. And when you do that, more good energy comes. So that's the fortune card. If you're asking a question that's like, am I gonna get this job? Am I gonna get this house? Does this person think I'm cute? Like whatever. The fortune card is probably a nice indication that things are going well energetically. All right. Then we move to the Justice card, or the Adjustment card in the Thoth deck. What is it called in the Wild Unknown?
It's strength, actually.
Okay, so that's the thing. In that system, as well as, what is it for you, babe? Okay. There's a really weird thing, and I don't know why this is. These two are switched, and just remind me to look up why that is, because I never realize it until I teach one of these, and everyone's on two different cards, these two cards, but they're switched. So we already talked about the Leo card. Now we're going to talk about Adjustment, or the Libra energy. Are you guys good? Okay, awesome. All right. So this is a really fascinating card, because this is where we get back sort of similar to what we looked at with the Hierophant. We get into this idea of like legality, because it's Libra, it's the scales. Again, kind of bringing us back to the concept of marriage, of binding something. Libra, as an astrological energy, represents fairness, balance, harmony, and partnerships. Business partnerships and relationships of all kinds. Mainly marriage, like marriage type stuff, or business proposals or business relationships. So whenever we see the Adjustment or the Adjustment card, there's a couple ways to look at this. It's the scales, right? So we have two different sides. So we have like, are things balanced? Like, have I reaped what I've sown? What am I putting out into my life that I'm getting back? Are things in harmony? How am I showing up in my relationships? Legalities, think of that. That's cause and effect, right? That's the checks and balances. It's balancing. You do something, something else is going to get balanced. You speed on the 405, maybe you get a ticket. That's the checks and balances, right? But what was the energetic exchange there? Well, you could have hurt yourself or someone else, so you're being energetically checked to not do that, and you're probably going to pay a lot of money, so that's not fun. So it represents that part of the Libra spectrum, but then also relationships, so similar also to what we explored with the Gemini energy. And then another quick tidbit is that both Gemini and Libra, the lovers and the Adjustment card, they're both air. So see how they're both kind of like traversing the same kind of subject matter? You know what I mean? It's checks and balances, this opposing, balancing. All right. And then another cool thing about the Adjustment card has to do with, especially in the Thoth, it takes more of like a meditative stance. So making sure that if life feels really chaotic and imbalanced, then get centered. She's balancing on a sword. What does the sword represent in tarot? Huh? Let's hear it. There's no wrong answers. Air, but what else? The mind, right? So What was I talking about initially? Like when things can seem really crazy, what do? We got to come internal. We got to use the mind as a tool. We got to use the mind as a sword that works for us, not against us. The adjustment card, this energy of balance, if we want to keep things balanced, we've got to be able to balance on the tip of the sword. That's what she's actually doing in the card. Don't speed, don't get a ticket, keep it zen, leave earlier. All right, the Hanged Man is next. All right, so the Hanged Man has to do with surrender. And again, sort of mirroring back, the Emperor has his legs in a 4. This is that number of stability, right? Being this very strong, structured, powerful person. Then we get to the Hanged Man. Do you see what his legs are in? An upside down 4. And he's naked. This is meant to be the Emperor. So I think he got overthrown. When the Hanged Man comes up, this has to do with like a surrender to something. We've got to let something go. Something's stagnated. Sometimes you'll see this in a relationship or a job where you know that you need to let go and you know that you need to be complete, but you maybe haven't let go yet. So the Hanged Man is all about where we have to kind of like let go, let God. We've got to move out of the way. The will is broken. You got to let the universe take over right now. Ending, release, vulnerability because he's naked, trust, sacrifice. And this is really fascinating because the next couple cards that we're going to get into sort of are kicked off by this theme. So don't you see that in your life? Kind of like when you have to let something go. Let's say you're going through a breakup. And then next we're going to go to the Death card. Now the Death card doesn't mean physical death. The Death card means a death of the ego. It's a death of a chapter. People, I get asked that all the time. It's like, well, what if you get the Death card? And I'm like, well, guess what? The Death card doesn't even mean death. And then the End card, which you'd think means death, is like the universe. It's like the coolest card in the whole thing. So it's all good, you know? So from the Hangman, surrender, letting go, letting God, the Emperor has been overthrown. We got to let go. We got to let go of the control. Then we're going to move to the Death card. This is a Scorpio energy. This is endings, transformation, change, transition, releasing the past. In the Thoth deck, it represents, it's got the fish here. And you'll see this, like I said, as you look more with your guidebooks, because every deck's going to have their own symbolism. But in this one, the fish represents the old past. I don't know why, but it does. Maybe because it smells. I don't know. Or you should let it go. I'm not sure. And it's about to be constricted by the snake. The snake in tarot and in symbolism in general, esoteric symbolism, represents shedding an old skin and transforming. It's like the Kundalini energy of the spine. So in the Death card, the past, the stuff we've held on to, the stuff that stinks, that doesn't belong anymore, it's about to be killed by the snake, which represents transformation and new life and shedding a skin. So also with the Death card, as I said, it can represent an ego death, maybe the forceful internal release of something that we wanted to hold on to that we can't hold on to anymore. I'll give you a little rendition. At the beginning of my last relationship, I pulled 3 cards and I said, what will this relationship represent to me? And I pulled the first 2 were really beautiful. And then the third one was the Death card. And I was like, well, that sucks. I was like, okay. But looking back, that is exactly what it was. Through that experience, I had to let go of so much of this old stuff and literally embrace a whole different person. And it trips me out because I actually forgot that I had pulled that. But if you're me, you save all your tarot readings everywhere because I always like to go back and see how they like play out. Also why I like to suggest keeping a journal of your readings. I'm going to talk about that more at the end. But it was so powerful to go back because after the release of that relationship, I had a full-blown shift. And the death initially wasn't that fun, but the feeling after leads us to the next card, which is the Temperance card, which traditionally, this is a very watery card. It's a Sagittarius energy. The last one was Scorpio, by the way. But this is a Sagittarius energy, which has to do with the truth in Western astrology. But it's a very watery card. Traditionally in the Rider-Waite, it's an angel performing an alchemical ceremony, sort of like the manifestation of something otherworldly. Well, the art card, it's called art in this deck. What's it called in the Wild Unknown?
Temperance.
Cool. It's usually called that traditionally, temperance. But this is like this watery energy. Like, think about it. This is how I like to look at it. The death card is like this release of something. And then we move into the temperance card or the art card, this watery energy, this alchemical energy. Think about it. It's like we're creating something new. I don't know about you guys, but when I go through a breakup, you know where I go first? The Beverly Hot Springs Spa. And I sit in there and soak because water has a very, very, very powerful effect on our whole synergy. Or if you're ever grieving or you need to make a decision or you're going through something, go get in a river. Like, let moving water hit you, legit, or the ocean, just be careful. The ocean scares me. But the negative ions of the moving water literally cleanses the human system. So let's just think of that as like the temperance card. When we get it, think of it as it's a moment similar to the Hermit card to sit alone, to explore, to heal, to take a look at something that maybe we haven't looked at in a while, something of that nature. Does that make sense? The art card, the temperance card, is honestly, it's a little esoteric and weird, but I always feel like it's more easily explained with reference to its opposite, which is the death card. Okay? All right. Now we're going to move to the Devil, another very misunderstood card. The Devil is a Capricorn energy. Is anyone a Capricorn in here? No? Okay, cool. I have a Capricorn rising, so I'll be the Capricorn vibe in here. So the Devil, this is a very, very interesting card. The Devil represents our animal instincts and our ego. So it's interesting, you're gonna see us kind of go back and forth here for a moment from like kind of a more challenging card to a lighter to a challenging to a lighter. You'll start to see this play out really powerfully. So the Devil, whenever the Devil comes up, he can represent addiction, he can represent habits, he can represent the places in ourselves where we keep ourselves bound, but where we can set ourselves free. So whenever the Devil comes up, he asks us to kind of look at and accept the dark parts of ourselves. You know how they talk about that a lot in like the spiritual everything? It's like, accept your shadow. I'm like, no, I don't want to, but I will. You have to. The Devil, whenever it comes up, we have to look at our shadow. Because through shadow, light creates shadow. Through exploring the shadow, through exploring the dark, is where we evolve and get to our light. There's a card in the Thoth deck that represents this called the Nine of Wands, Strength, and it literally represents exploring the shadowy side of the self and bringing it to light. That's a lot of what the Devil means. This can also represent a person in your life, or maybe even you, with a massive ego problem, someone very controlling. And it also asks you to take a look at where you're extremely controlling of yourself. And you may ask, well, why is Capricorn that? Well, if you understand or you know any Capricorns, they're very controlling or controlled people. They're either extremely controlling of themselves or they want to be in control of everyone. And I can speak to that because my mom's a Capricorn and I have a Capricorn rising, and it's true.